Well, we're back for another discussion. It's been a while. Today I thought we'd talk about aliens. I don't talk a lot about aliens, extraterrestrials. I call them stellans, stellar humans, interstellar humans, stellans. That's my term. I think that more reasonably, defines them or labels them. I'm just having some snow. Good, fine Canadian snow. It's white. Don't eat the yellow snow. That's lemon flavor. Or the brown snow, which is chocolate. Eat the white snow, because that's good. Now, of course, this contradicts global warming, because it is winter and it's snowing. It's snowing in winter. And it's cold. It's not bad. It's a very nice taste. If you need some liquid or water, eat snow. That's not scientific proof. I'm not a scientist. I am not a scientist. So the weather is getting colder. If my jaw freezes up, you'll understand. There's a lot of information coming out with the UFO disclosure, kind of in this drip process. And they recently went to the US Congress in July, the whistleblowers, to talk about UAPs. I like that, UAPs. And they want to get legislation out on the UAPs, unidentified as an aerial phenomenon. Unidentified aerial phenomenon. A lot of the time you have to think, what's the real reason behind rebranding the UFO to a UAP, right? There's got to be more than just a technical reason, right? Because they're saying it's a broader category now, because it could be advanced craft, could be terrestrial craft, could be drones, could be alien craft, could be alien drones, whereas a UFO was an alien ship. That's their rationale or the general understanding, but I like to think, of legislation. Again, when you get into this industry, if you start thinking about this, the UFO business, the industry, the disclosure, the cover-up, the UFO cover-up, which has been in place for 75, 80 years, as a cover-up. Anybody who's involved knows that. People have died trying to get information out. It's very serious. Anybody knows about what's going on and how far back it goes, and we're going to talk about that today a little bit. We know that when we talk about UFO to UAP, that is much more, there's a lot more going on, I think. Because remember, this comes down to national security. So there are agreements in place, policies in place, right? Amendments in place, legal documents, political documents, military intelligence says UFO, right, is a cover-up, is banned, right? There is, right? It's a particular blockade, cover-up on the UFO. So now, if we want to disclose the truth about aliens and extraterrestrials, back-engineered crafts, crash retrievals, the cooperation with non-humans. Non-humans is a new term now. If you notice in the Congress, whistleblowers are using non-human, which is preferred over alien, or they would call them EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities. They call them extraterrestrial. You know, those negative terms are now being changed to non-humans. I've used that term many years ago, non-human. I prefer stellan. Maybe one day we'll get to that stellan, because they are human. A lot of them are humanoid, not all. So you notice the classification. It's subtle. Now, if you're under 30 years old, this is kind of like makes a lot of sense. But if you're older and you've done your research, you realize, well, wait a minute. Yeah, they used to be called evil aliens and extraterrestrials and EBEs and all kinds of these terms. And space monsters, right? Space monsters. And then we're moving now we've jumped in 80 years. We're going to non-humans. This is a huge jump. You know why it's a huge jump? I'll give you a little hint. We're talking about the same thing we were talking about 70, 80 years ago. We're just looking at it with a different lens. And we've overcome all of the psychological operations to slander these intelligent life forms, right? It's the same people who were here 80 years ago are here today. Right? It's only 80 years ago we were calling them extraterrestrial evil aliens, and today we're calling them non-humans. The whistleblowers. Congress is now, members of U.S. Congress are thinking about them in terms of non-human. Now, if you used that term 80 years ago, they would call you nuts because there were space monsters. It's a huge jump. If you're new to this thing, maybe it makes sense to you, but we've come a long way, baby. There was that commercial. You've come a long way, baby. Now the same thing, this rebranding. It's the same thing. What I'm saying again, 80 years ago is the same stellans who they're talking about today. And the whistleblowers are talking about the crash retrievals and the incidents across those 80 years. So it's the same thing we're talking about, but we're using different terms. Better, I think, an improvement in terms. Terms I was using 20 years ago. UFO is the same thing, but UFO now there's kind of a legislative block. It's a national security block. So how do you overcome legislation that says UFOs are top secret national security and you can't talk about it? Well, you rebrand it. You call it UAP. You call it an unidentified aerial phenomenon because there's no legislation on UAP because it's a new term. So the UFO has got a lot of blocks. Let's say, intelligence. It's got a lot of negativity, psychological operations. There's a lot of restriction. But UAP is now, okay, let's redefine it. And what are they doing? They're trying to get UAP, right, into legislation to gain some transparency on UAPs, because you can't gain transparency on UFO. right? Because when you write documents and you say UFO, you can't overcome that. When you call them a UAP, now you could open up that discussion. You can open up that door. So it's a major rebranding, and there's a new understanding. But this has been going on for 80 years, okay? The idea that any of this is new. What do they want? What do these people want? Why come from another star system or another dimension or another plane of existence and why come here? Now, everybody's looking for one reason, especially in the past, alien invasion. They wanted our genetic material because their race was dying, and only the genetic material of humans was going to save their race. That was the psychological operation from the past, and anybody spreading that was part of that operation. But that's not true. There was the evil alien agenda. They want to take over Earth. There's not one, first of all, there's not one reason why they're here, right? Not one reason why they're here. The other issue is there's more than one race. There are multiple races. And each race has their own program, purpose, reason. So it's a wide spectrum. Third thing, if they wanted to take over the world, they haven't done it after 80 years. If they wanted to destroy the world after 80 years, they haven't done it. Now, given the fact that they have advanced technology, they could have done it over 80 years, easy. They didn't. So what does that prove? It proves that the theories of the past are wrong. The theories of the past are wrong. And that's part of that psychological operation, space monster. That's the space monster, the space monster narrative. And I've talked about this in previous videos. And it's interesting, the things I exposed years ago is now becoming clearer and clearer. And as we go forward, what I've said is pretty clear. Even though I'm not a scientist, I have to make clear I'm not a scientist. And in the past, they've used that against me. You're not a scientist. You don't have a PhD. You don't know what you're talking about. I do know what I'm talking about. You know why? Because I've experienced it. Because I've seen ships. And I've met these people. Star people. I've met them. Scientists have not. They're theorists. The scientists are theorists. I'm an experiencer. But I am not believed over the scientist who hasn't experienced anything. Well, it makes sense that we're not alone in the universe, given the proximities of habitable planets, given the number of planets and the size of the galaxy. We're not alone. No, we're not alone, because I've met them. You'll see in the future. Don't worry. You will see in the future. But it could be pretty far in the future. So where do they come from? There's many races. The argument now is, are they, first of all, they were extraterrestrial, and then some guy comes out with a theory, or a girl, they are interdimensional. And then some guy comes to another theory, they're from the future. They are us in the future coming back to save ourselves. Yeah. If in the future we look like a 9-foot tall praying mantis, that theory may hold true, but I don't think we're going to evolve into a praying mantis. So, or whatever, or a gray-skinned human with a large head and black eyes. I don't think so. The theory doesn't work, okay? While there may be time travelers, while that is plausible, that is not the definitive explanation for what's going on. Because I'm talking about stellans. So we are from the futures. I don't think that's not interstellar. I'm talking about interstellar, advanced races, advanced people, advanced races. Why do they come here? Because they can. If you live in New York and you have a car, a good car, you have a Tesla, and you want to go to Chicago, and I live in New York, I don't have a car, and I want to go to Chicago, I can't go. You can. I guess I can take the bus. So you have a vehicle to go to Chicago, right? Why are they here? Because they have a vehicle. They have a ship. Have ship will travel, right? Why build a ship? Because I want to travel. Why build a car? Because you want to travel, right? Who's going to build a ship and just park it there? I built it, look. No, you build a ship because you want to go somewhere. You build a car, you want to go somewhere. Why do you buy a car? Because you want to go somewhere. Like we I don't know if it's idealization or it's just stupidity. Why are they here? Because they have a ship. And they wanted to travel. And they're scientists. And they're advanced. And it's no big deal coming here in their fast ship. And the ship is pretty big. Some of their ships are very large. So you've got a means. Why else are you here? Well, you're scientists. What do we do as scientists? What do? We continue to manipulate reality, right? These scientists, they're very good with genetics. They can build, once you can build a bicycle, you can build a house, you can build a car. What else you want to build? You want to start building people. That's the ultimate, right? We're building AI. The next step, we're building robots. Well, eventually we're going to merge the robots with the AI. And then what's the next step? We're going to eventually build people in the future. May it's 50 years or 100 years, we as a human race, we're going to build people. Now, an advanced race that is 10,000 years ahead of us, just as a rough number, it's beyond our comprehension. Some of these races are a million years ahead of us. So to them, building a bicycle or building a person is simple. In fact, it's an obligation. Just like we have, here we have horticulture, right? What's the big thing with marijuana right now? Marijuana. It's legalized. What do you do? What happens when you legalize marijuana? I'm just trying to use terms we can understand. What happens when you legalize marijuana? You get people growing marijuana, creating plants, horticulture, cultivation, seed. We can genetically modify seed. Why? Because we want to smoke dope. Because we understand how to do it. Growing plants. Because that's the nature of the race. The nature of the race is to create. Right? We create. That's our power. A power, I think, as a power as a human is to create. We create a car. A car comes from nothing. If you look at a car, it's got 10,000 parts to it. Someone said, I'm going to make that. A house is a creation. Software is a creation. So what happens is, if you extend that into the future, you start to create people. You start by genetically modifying a species to improve them, remove diseases, remove genetic defects, gene editing, which we're doing now. But eventually you get to a point where you can genetically manufacture people. And so what happens is, you don't necessarily, your race is advanced, you're not going to genetically manufacture people on your planet. You are going to go to another planet and genetically manufacture people. Or you're going to genetically manufacture people and take them to another planet and create an ecosystem, which you can also do, and you're going to say, be fruitful and multiply. Again, we're extending, I'm thinking you got to extend yourself into the future. If the level of technology advances as it does, if after 1,000, 10,000, a million years, this is not something that's complicated. But there's a process, there's a science. So you start, what do you do? Well, you're populating other planets. Seeding other planets. Right? Because that's our if anything, our purpose is to create. We create art, and we create cars, and we build cities, and we build houses, and we build companies, and the companies create products. You go to the store, there's products, and each one of those products is a creation. There's a lot of labor and work and research and money put into that product, into the packaging is created. The product itself is created, it's engineered. If it's a little electrical device, it's engineered. A refrigerator, there's an engineer. A car, there's an engineer. Same thing with people at the advanced level. So you populate, you seed a planet, you seed many planets, you seed a planet, and then you periodically visit. You take care of these people so that they don't destroy themselves, they don't die of some rampant disease, that the gene pool doesn't degrade too far. And every so often you have to go over there and kind of do a genetic upgrade. In my thinking is, although we're not there at that level, the thinking is the same as software. Like the phone, every month there's a new bug fix, and then every year there's a new operating system. Right? There's operating this is OS. Starts off with OS 1, and then it goes OS 1.1, OS 1.25, OS 1.28, OS 1.3, OS 2, right? OS 2.1, and then we're up to OS whatever, OS 15. So we're always creating, we're always upgrading. fixing, bug fixing. Same with cars, right? New model, redesign. Same with people. You have to improve. The next generation is better than the old generation, and then at some point there's a genetic leap, right? Just like your phone. Your phone went from it went from a 1 pound brick to like this, to a flip phone, to a touch screen pocket device that replaces your camera and everything else. So one reason why advanced races are here is because some of them are responsible for seeding the planet, creating the space colony we call Earth. They're not our parents, they are our creators from the past. They didn't necessarily create you today, but they are the progenitors. They are the creators. I mean, by definition, they're the creators, but they're godlike because they're just more advanced. And they're extremely advanced, and they're just doing what they're doing. It's like the guy building the car. He's not God. I mean, you worship. We respect them. We sometimes you worship. We idolize filmmakers, right? Actors, writers, and they have some of them have a godlike status, but we know they're not gods. I can't create a car. I have no idea how to engineer a car, and I respect automobile engineers. I mean, they're talented, but they're not gods. But they have a creative power that is godlike. They can create. So the advanced races, see, I'm talking about stellans. They're just a far more evolved, advanced race of being. So they have an investment in a particular planet, such as this planet, which is one of many planets. My understanding. I'm not a scientist. I don't have a PhD. But my understanding is this is one of many planets, this seeded planets, aka space colony. Where we live, and they have an interest because they have an investment because they were there in the beginning, and they're taking care of basics, genetic upgrades, making sure we don't completely destroy ourselves with a nuclear war, or there's not some rampant virus or disease that wipes us out. So, or that the Earth, sometimes the Earth changes, can be so significant that they'll come in and they'll do some upgrades to the planet, right? They're also planetary engineers. There's a planetary engineer. So they can fix, my understanding, they can fix atmospheres. They can fix, the planet itself has mechanisms which are beyond our comprehension, which they can manage and fix, and so that the planet also needs servicing. So now we got another reason why they're here. It's not just about us. Some of the theorists like to focus, it's all about us. They're coming after us. No, a lot of it has to do with the planet. The planet is engineered. Somebody engineered this planet. Yes, by engineer, I mean they made it. I'm not a scientist. I am not a scientist. I want to be clear. Because that means I could be completely wrong. But I'm not. Because the planet was engineered. So the planet needs maintenance, just like a car, just like a vehicle. Any machine needs maintenance. In the vehicle, you do your oil change. You got to change the tires. You gotta fix the brakes, replace the brakes. Sometimes you gotta change the valve cover, gasket, thermostat. You gotta clean it. So that's the planet needs to be serviced. Well, you can't take the planet to the service station. So you have these planetary engineers who are non-human. But non-human means they're advanced races. You know, what I call stellars. So they come here and they take care of the planet. Now, so you understand my context. So we can go on. So let's just focus on those things. They come here and they're genetically upgrading people. And, and they're helping people ascend. Because some of them are interdimensional, so they're working with the spirit. Some of them are from another planet, so they're working on the physical. Some of them are planetary, so they're working on the planet. So these people come here, and then what do? They got to fight the military. The military's trying to kill them. They're shooting down their planes, right? The Air Force is shooting down their planes. The intelligence operatives are trying to kill them. You got the other operations when a family is visited. The intelligence, the black men in black that come there and they brainwash the family, and you've got psychological operations saying that the UFOs are fake and aliens are evil, right? So they're coming in this context of it's a very antagonistic. And throughout the years, there's been arrangements to sort of tell the world what's going on, but the people who control the world don't like that, so they've sabotaged that, and they create, they'll create incidents and wars and terrorist attacks and global viruses and all kinds of paranoia to distract the population, right? The crises, one crisis after another. Okay, we're going to have a disclosure. Oh, there's a war, there's a terrorist attack, the planes have hit the building, we're going to have to delay it. Oh, there's a pandemic, we're going to have to delay it. Oh, look at that. Mass shooting. Oh, economy is about to collapse. So it's just been perennially delayed, all of these agreements, for 80 or 100 years, right? Because if the world understood what's really going on, then the people who control the world will be thought of in a different way. Now, in the past, that was more relevant because we didn't have social media, we didn't have the social awakening we've had in recent years, in the last 10, 15 years, right? In the past, we had no computer. We're talking, the 60s or 70s, we had no real computer, no internet. No computer, no internet, no mobile phone, no social media. So all of these tools have become a way to prevent disinformation, because now we can share information. So when you can't control information, that prevents outright control. So it's a fundamental change. Like, although you don't connect it to the UFO disclosure, part of the disclosure is the fact that we need transparency, and part of transparency is allowing people to communicate unfettered, unrestricted. And even in recent years, with the political upheaval in the U.S., there's been attempts to control social media. And now that's opening up again. So there's these elements that have to control information. And by allowing the flow of information, 50 years ago, if I spoke like this, I would disappear the next week. I'd be gone. Whether I'm right or wrong, it's just we don't want people thinking outside the box. Well, today you get all kinds of stuff, and so it's a free form. It's a free for all. You can find anything you want. You can find anything you want, and then it's up to you to decide. Not up to the television. It's up to you to decide how to think, how to process. And when you do that, when you give people enough information, they can start to make sense of reality, and they can make better decisions. And they're no longer mind controlled or brainwashed. Now, we're not there yet, but with the process of an official UAP transparency will validate the discussion, I think, because people will be allowed to talk about crash retrievals and other types of biological life forms and what they look like, and we can talk about how advanced they might be, what the name of their race is, right? And it's not just the last 100 years. I mean, these races have been coming here for thousands of years. And some of these races look human. So it wouldn't be a stretch of the imagination to say that some of the figures of the past, ancient past, right? Some of the figures, some of the leaders, some of the kings and queens were from another world. They just looked human. Right? So some of the ancient civilizations may have been led by some of these races who looked human, or human enough, or were able to hide their cone-shaped heads under big hats. So, you know what I mean? But the more we discuss it, the more we open it up, it's not just a 100-year UFO cover-up. We're talking about they've been here a long time. And so what we know about it? What are we all, children? We can handle it. We can handle it. Let's get the truth. Let's have it out. Let's discuss it. So what? So what there's aliens? They've obviously haven't blown up the world in the last 100 years. They haven't destroyed us. So they're obviously not here for malicious reasons. Although there's going to be there will be some darker groups who have a malicious intent, but that's not the general hypothesis. That's not the general intention. If the general intention was to destroy us, well, they would have done it by now. So that's your evidence. I mean, to me, I always say history is evidence. Like the fact that the prophecies that the world is going to end date back thousands of years and the world has never ended. Well, that's evidence that these prophecies are just, delusional people ranting and raving. The world is not going to end. But historical evidence proves it. Historical evidence proves that these aliens or these star travelers, these non-humans, are not here to destroy the world. Which was, you may not know now, but which was one of the theories of the past. So that means, well, I don't want to know about it. I'm afraid. So, in my suggestion, in my experience, they're much more advanced with many more benevolent reasons and reasons that they can actually help us. They can guide us into like an even bigger future, but that will challenge those who control the planet. And some of those are not necessarily human. So you understand now the sort of the fine line. Some of the people who control the planet are non-human, who know that there are other non-humans who are more benevolent, who want to have a more transparent discussion. And so these darker non-humans don't want that to take place, because then A, they'll be exposed, and B, they won't have overt control over the population. So that's kind of the, what do you call it? Inside ball game.